Welcome to The Builder Seat, a Roblin Contracting Incorporated podcast, shining a light on the people of Roblin, our partners, our exceptional projects, our culture, and core values we uphold every day. On this week's episode, our very own Hitesh Dhawan interviews Roblin's Vice President of Healthcare Market Segment, Andrew McLain. Enjoy the show.
All right, welcome to The Builder Seat. Last week, we had the pleasure of meeting Lisa Orguera, our Director of Safety and Risk Management. If you haven't checked out that episode, I recommend you pop in and give that a listen. This week, I'm excited to introduce Andrew McLain, our Vice President of the Healthcare Market Segment here at Roblin Contracting. Andrew, it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Glad to be here.
Really glad. You and I have known each other for a couple of years, so we're going to try to play this as if I don't know you yet.
All right.
I'd love for everybody to get to know Andrew. There are a lot of leaves on this artichoke, and we're going to use some healthcare puns and some healthy food puns.
Love it.
And because you're, in the healthcare market segment, let's start off by getting to know a little bit about you personally. I know that you've got a drive for health that fits obviously very well with your work here at Roblin.
Sure. First and foremost, I'm a McLain, and that may not say a lot to others, but it's certainly in my blood and helps describe to me who I am. Son, brother, father, husband, friend, builder, reader, entrepreneur, failed a few times. No, I'm taking all the life lessons and relationships that I've built along the way, and here I am, and bring it to Roblin Healthcare.
Yeah, and there you go, right? Leaves on that artichoke. There's so many facets to us, and to you especially, as I've learned. Yeah,
Roblin Healthcare is not really what I showed up for, but it was a long passion that was in there from past experience. Actually, an inside story that not even Healthcare really does have a deeper meaning to me. I was born with a spinal defect, a rare form of spinal bifida. Doctors said he will likely not walk, may not even survive. This was at birth. So because of the technology at that time, 10 years earlier, probably wouldn't have happened, but at that right time, Dr. Waters, remember his name, left a good old scar on me, but because of him, he beat the odds, I beat the odds. Maybe that is my true story of why healthcare is so important to me.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing. And,
sure.
And I mean, that's that vulnerability I think we've always talked about, is that, there's something in there that most people don't know, and that is a personal drive.
Yep,
wow. Amazing. Absolutely. Yeah, I had no idea.
Yeah.
So that personal passion of yours, you've got this kind of hook into healthcare and how it changes lives. Talk to us about how you've seen the healthcare market transform since you've joined.
It's grown quite a lot. It's been organic in nature. Healthcare kind of started really maybe 5 years ago in earnest as being a dedicated market. I stepped into the role. We started building the team. All our work is TI remodel based. So we're in the heart of the hospital, which is a different type of construction than, ground up hospitals. So it takes a different type of people, a different type of mindset to go into hospitals and do this work. You're right next to patients. Sometimes you see little kids in beds, you see old people in beds, so we really see it on us. It's our job to be this extra set of hands for the hospital to care for patients and to show we care and to change lives. And really, our company mission of improving the lives of others is really well supported by ours in healthcare. We talk about the team all the time. Our job is to change and save lives of the people in our communities. And I really impress that upon our team, that what you do is equally as important as the doctors, nurses, firefighters, everyone who gets them there, who's helping them there. If we don't execute our mission, those people's lives aren't changed or saved. So trying to find that goal bigger than ourselves, that certainly is. And it changes the way you work. It changes the way you think about your work. It becomes way more personal.
Yeah, it certainly does. I mean, you made a very good point there, that our team that's kind of boots on the ground, or in the hospital for that matter, we have to act like extra hands to the team. You'd say that probably takes a whole new level of care. It's I don't want to call it kid gloves, but kind of that concept of, it's an extra almost white glove approach.
That's exactly what we call it. White glove approach, ghost protocol we also talk about
Yeah.
in the office, or when we're on job sites, you kind of you have to be there but disappear. Not too many people are thrilled that we're ever there. We're making noise. We're obstructing normal operations. So be there, care. It's a higher burden to work in these facilities.
Sure. Well, and I suppose an orange vest and a hard hat is a completely different look than most doctors' coats and nurses' scrubs.
It is, and we talk about, your family needs you. That's safety motto. It's on all of our hard hats. Well, we saw that as an opportunity of, the general public doesn't know what that means.
Mm-hmm.
And we're passing shoulders for most people who are, if you're at the hospital, you probably didn't choose to go there. It's probably not a good day. Could be an awful day. So we said, YNFY, what's that mean to the public? If they're in construction, maybe they know. We said, let's spell it out, because we want that extra push and how we work in these facilities. That's just a free way to help someone have a better day, to reframe their mindset. I've just gotten into a book about the power of subconscious mind, and seeing that imagery on shirts of our staff walking in and out, that's just a powerful tool it's free. It's a free service that we bring, and a quality of construction that matters to us.
Yeah. The power of the subconscious mind, or subconscious imagery and everything, it's very huge. You're right. I mean, just a glimpse of somebody walking by, again, the difference of if you see one of our workers walking by and they've just got, a dirty uniform and tracking footprints through the hallway and things like that. I mean, it's just, even if you didn't interact with that person, you would see that. And so I can see why there's this higher level of care, higher level of service. And, you're right about not wanting to be in a hospital. I don't think there's ever a time, and I started in healthcare. That's the other thing too. When I was an intern engineer, I started in healthcare and I worked in hospitals, and it was about the last place I wanted to be until I realized what an impact it made on the lives around us.
Yeah.
And then it kind of gives you an understanding of, this is a very noble effort, and the more care you can put into it, the happier you can make somebody. Because again, it's like showing up to an auto repair shop. You don't usually go there because you're having a good day.
Yeah. I struggled early on building, large buildings, even large medical buildings, ground up stuff, but it was always very cold. Mm-hmm. I saw all the fancy finishes. I saw, demoing buildings, bringing them out of the ground. But a lot of people in construction never get to see the end user. And that's that human connection that was important to me, that I think we connect for the rest of our team as well. You really see, you close the feedback loop on what it is you do. I wouldn't replace it for anything.
Yeah, no, that's it's an amazing feeling to know that you've made a difference, and to be able to see it and recognize it. Like you said, if you can see, the person who's going to interact with the space you've created, it's much more important than just having sort of spun off a cold shell and walked away.
Right. Right.
Very true. Since we've known each other, you've kind of moved towards the leadership role side of things, really helping lead this team that, didn't really exist. I mean, it did loosely exist, and your influence has really changed it. And so I'd love to put a little spotlight on your leadership style, because that's very unique and it's very effective to be able to connect with people here and with our clients. So let's talk about that.
Oh boy, this is the woo-woo side. How do we describe that? Well, to me, what I've kind of broken all down to is there's a few books that obviously shaped my thoughts on this. Mm-hmm. Leadership and Self-Deception being the primary one, the one I think I've handed out to anyone who will take it out of my hand.
I've got a copy.
That shaped me at a great time in my life. It really hit home. So taking that, seeing people as people, that sounds like a very simple statement. It's very difficult to do. We often, because of time and the speed of life around us, objectify people. We see them as a means to an end. Mm-hmm. I need to get information out of this person. I need this person to do something for me. You're seeing them not as an equal to you. So that material really hit home for me, and I've tried to live that. No one does that perfectly all day long. Mm-hmm. It's the degrees to which you can do that throughout the day that really increase value and trust and strengthen a team. When you see other people as, equal to you, they have the same hopes, fears, dreams as you do, you begin to spend more time with those people. And once you spend more time with people, you get to know them better. You're building bonds. This is how tribes work. And then you get to that critical step of trust. Once you can establish trust and build trust, you're there.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
everything on top of that is just added benefits. What I've talked about before is time is a critical sacrifice that you have to give to your people. We all recognize time as an internal currency, and people appreciate when you give them more of your time. That's currency to them. They understand that. They respect it. I'm a one phone guy, one phone on all the time. I'm often responding pre-work, post-work, weekends. I make myself completely available to the team and try to come in every morning thinking, how do I serve the team? Think outward towards them and their needs. It's a servant leadership model, really.
Sure. Well, and I think it really expresses the idea that, you do have a second family. I mean, you have a first family, and you have an extended family.
Yeah.
And now you have your Roblin family.
Yep.
And I think that exudes the idea that we all have here that we seem to share is the Roblin family kind of motto. The Roblin family concept is, even when I came here, I think I had a light connection, right? It's, when you're new to any organization, you have a light connection. You kind of get to know people, they get to know you, but it's still on the surface, like you mentioned, with more time, with time as a sacrifice is very true. It's probably one of the harder pills to swallow, so to speak, is, you've got to invest that time, take that walk around the building, have that coffee, have that lunch, just express, or for that matter, listen. That's a very big part of it. Like you said, is if you can even just lend an ear to your team and,
Right.
and they know you're available,
Right.
you've sacrificed your time in a very positive way, and you've let yourself open, to understanding, and then that bond is built. And I would say, I'd say Roblin is my extended family. I already know that.
Sure.
That's why we're here.
Yeah. Some people tread lightly on saying a family environment. They don't know. They don't quite know how to work in that. But for me and in my style, I can't not think about. I can't draw the line. I do know the genetic break between that, but it's more tribalism, really.
Yeah.
I have to treat them like they're part of my tribe, and everyone is.
Well, that's the difference between working with colleagues and working with your tribe.
Correct.
Working with your people, and,
Right.
and that's the thing: seeing people as people, right?
Right.
We've recognized each other. We know who we are. We know what we stand for. It's more than just we came to work together.
It's the most basic human at our deepest level. We're not at Dunbar's number yet of 150. At least not in healthcare. So I've been able to manage that. If we can recreate a bunch of leaders who can manage their tribes, that can all work well together, very well in a bigger organization.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that definitely makes sense. That's a very unique leadership style, I would say, again, in this industry, and having worked, each of us have all worked for different companies and have different types of management styles we've seen. There's something to be said about the get to know you management style. It transcends management style at that point. It is really just the get to know you leadership and the get to know you group.
Right. You can't say people are a number one asset and not put the majority of your focus towards your people.
Yeah.
That's a disconnect that I don't see. You're either doing that or you're saying it.
Yeah.
That's the only route you can really take there.
Yeah, very true. So Andrew, I want to go back to speaking a little bit about you personally.
Mm-hmm.
And again, your personal drives, both in your life, your family life perhaps, and your work life. And we were talking about vulnerability earlier. You were very kind and brave to share your story. Your first situation in life that you had to overcome is not what everybody has to go through. It's not something that I know you generally share, because it's not like you're not trying to hold that out there and say, this is what I overcame. But vulnerability is huge. It is an enormous trust builder.
I've said it a fair amount that vulnerability is maybe one of the best leadership traits that are out there. Now, at this point, have reading so many books, I'm trying to bring it all in together to one unifying theory. Vulnerability to me is in my top 5 for sure. But that's also back to the seeing people as people. Being vulnerable is no longer risky. Being vulnerable in someone shows a level of trust. Usually you're going to have to take the first step towards them. Mm-hmm. and be vulnerable. So yeah, I'm a pretty open book with all of our team. I try to have as many real human interactions. I talk about my flaws and where I think people on our team are better than me and where I think they should step up in certain positions. Say, you are better than me at this. And that's a hard pill to swallow, because really in what we do in healthcare, it's not one big team. It's not one big tribe that sits in one room and does one big job. It's 4 or 5 different locations. So you're building these micro tribes, and they all have to be highly functioning together. And that's the real hard skill in leadership, is building great teams that all mesh and can execute the plan and the mission.
Sure. We're in construction. We build buildings. If you think about the way we build a structure, you couldn't just have somebody who only had beams to offer to build the whole thing, right? There's columns, there's beams, there's trusses, there are different elements even to a building, and every element has its best possible purpose.
Right.
And if all you could do was offer everybody, this is my beam, well, terrific. You can't just build a building with just that. You're going to need better materials. You're going to need better suggestions. You're going to need different materials. Again, the best for the position, for the job. It's very important to get rid of that ego, to be able to allow that to kind of bubble to the surface. So then I have a question for you, though.
Oh, okay.
So going back to vulnerability and having to take the first step, I would imagine there are a lot of people listening who don't really follow this concept. Maybe it's the first time they've heard it, being vulnerable. Maybe it's tough to be vulnerable. I would say absolutely, depending on your mixed company. And again, if you're new to an organization, being vulnerable is definitely a lot tougher than if you're established at least some rapport across the board. So maybe what are your suggestions for somebody who is right there, right? Yep. They're on the tip of going, okay, I get the concept of vulnerability, but...
It's simple. You don't have to step into someone's office and start telling your deepest secrets and crying in front of them, right?
Oh, I shouldn't do that.
If you can come into my office and cry. That's why I put the couch in there.
Okay, perfect.
So another little meme that I talk with our team the whole time, and this is what it is. This is what vulnerability is. And the tagline I saw, it was spray painted on a trailer. I saw it on the internet somewhere. And the line went, "Your fear of looking stupid is holding you back."
Yeah.
And that's it. Even to this day, there'll still be people on the team that I know they have questions, but they won't ask because their fear of looking stupid. And that's your caveman brain trying to protect you, because
don't get kicked out of the tribe.
Don't get kicked out of the tribe, because that was assuredly death. Today that doesn't exist. So that's vulnerability, asking the questions that you fear are stupid, or taking the things that make you nervous. Those are the easiest. That's the easiest thing you can do to show and in return get back vulnerability. If you can start building that trust with the team by knowing that we're not guarded, we're not protected, we're not scared of, there's not going to be people laughing and pointing their fingers at me.
Right.
These are the foundational blocks of building teams.
Well, and I think that's a terrific way you put it. I think it's bravery and vulnerability. I think they really go hand in hand. I mean, I want to take a moment here to speak to Roblin specifically, our Roblin family who are listening, because I know that we've got quite a few people that listen internally to our own Roblin team. I think we all need to know that as an organization, as the Roblin team, we aren't the ones who are ever going to point and laugh and make fun of any kind of question, because it's only going to make us collectively better, stronger, and more bonded to be able to be vulnerable and ask those questions. I think the biggest thing to say is it's brave for anybody to raise their hand and say, hey, I think this, or I don't know this, or who can we get to do this, whatever it might be. But I think that level of vulnerability and bravery within our own company is necessary, for that level of growth.
Absolutely. It's required to get where you need to go to have exceptional teams. You have to get past that step. Been here 4.5 years. I've asked a lot of silly questions, and I've still yet, at least in my face, been laughed at, pointed at. So, and that's really it. It's just your perception of that fear. It's like, if you're not going to get laughed at or pointed at or ridiculed, just you got to fire away. You have to be inquisitive. You have to. That's how you build. Really your own selfishly.
Yeah.
If you're just thinking selfishly, not even the team, selfishly, how I want to grow the fastest. Yeah. It's like where my youngest son is right now. It's just so many questions nonstop, just will not stop. But, I don't tell them to stop because I don't want them to ever stop
That's right.
questioning.
That's right. That's a huge way to put it is, if you think about like an inquisitive child, right? And I think children are the most innocent example of where I think we should all be. Everybody should have some level of childlike curiosity, as they say. Being able to ask those questions, that's why they grow. That's why they accelerate.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a little question to pose to the audience in general is, when's the last time you've asked 5 questions in a row?
Right.
Ever.
Right.
In the last 5 years, 10 years. When's the last time you asked 5 questions in a row? It may have been when you were in school, but maybe not even then, right? Of any level of graduate learning, undergraduate, it doesn't matter.
You almost always certainly stopped yourself.
Yeah.
It wasn't because the person said, stop asking questions. You felt you were pestering, or you felt something. You created a false sense of, I have to stop. This is too much. I'm pressing, or, you can't stop.
That's a very big point of personal growth, is to get over the idea that, you may have a spotlight on you for having learned something, or asked a question, because asking a question is learning something at the end of the day. And so, yeah, very good point to everybody. And I'd say maybe just the final follow-up to that idea is, as an organization and as an industry, speaking just straight to the construction industry, we need to provide that level of comfort collectively. I think that, again, to a lot of the newer engineers and newer folks in general, just coming to the industry, there is a little bit of that hesitance of, oh man, there's these seasoned folks that are just not going to like what I say. You have to learn. And I think I guess I would call myself seasoned at this point. I've been in the industry long enough. Having been in the industry long enough, I don't think that there's a person that could come to me and say something that I would, first of all, be surprised about. I want to say I've kind of heard quite a bit of it, maybe not all of it, but quite a bit of it. But I would hope to express that to anybody that's new in the industry, that, fire away. Let's hear, what do you have to say? What are your suggestions? What are your thoughts? Because I learn constantly from that too. I think we as an industry will learn constantly from a newcomer's perspective. So providing that safe haven, that would be big.
Yeah, it's actually a really great feeling when someone maybe newer comes to you and starts to ask questions. You realize, wow, over the last 20 years, I've picked up quite a bit, and it feels good to pass it on to someone, to help the team, to help that person grow. I just gave them their first little nugget, and they're going to start stacking those and keep stacking them, and then eventually, they're going to climb up the ladder too.
That's great. Lots of great conversation, Andrew. I appreciate it. Whenever we end our podcast, we like to have a little segment called What's on Your Heart. Kind of what's on your mind, but what's on your heart? What do you want to share? And I think I see your heart on your sleeve right there from earlier. But
it's been out of my chest for too long. There's no putting it back.
Right.
Really goes back to that, reading the Genie Within is the power of the subconscious mind, and the power of positive thinking and positive talk. I want to say Matthew or Henry Carpenter, I forget his name, but
we'll put it in the show notes.
Please do.
We'll watch your book suggestions in there.
Powerful book. So personally, that's the angle I'm on right now. There's no fixed point. I'm on this path. I just got to keep going. I am really eating this up right now and thinking about how my thinking and subconscious thinking can really change the direction of my life and those around me. So I'm focusing on that personally right now. Professionally, I got a birthday party to plan.
Yeah.
100-year birthday party.
Oh, that's awesome.
Is what I'm planning.
All right.
That's Roblin 100. That's been on my mind ever since I started here. And that will be something I work on until, that puts me about 80. But
we'll get there.
We'll get there, and I will be here for it.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah. I know that we've talked about that a couple times now, and the idea of hitting that centennial mark is huge.
Well, whether I get to light the candle or get a piece of cake, I want to do everything in my power to make that happen, to see it happen. The statistics for any company hitting 100 are stacked against you. Yeah. But I think we got the right people on our side.
I think with your attitude, Andrew, and this team, I think we're all there.
Yep, absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Definitely. So we want to thank everybody that's taken the time to listen to these podcasts and kind of hear our message. And we would love for you to reach out to any one of us. Feel free to reach out to us literally in any possible way. I think we are all connected somehow in LinkedIn, online, email, phone. You'll find us in the yellow pages.
We're out there.
We're out there.
Can't miss us.
No doubt. Thanks.
Great. Thanks.
Today's episode is produced and edited by Roblin's digital media specialist, Aaron Zaragoza. Hosted by Director of Strategic Operations, Hitesh Dewan. Original music by Superintendent of Concrete, Rich Collenberg, with music production by J.K. Northrup. Thank you for listening to The Builder's Seat.